Hello, welcome to my channel, Diane's Sewing Room. Now, I said in my previous video, after reviewing the Gertie new book for Better Sewing book, that I was going to make a project from it first of all, and it was this blouse, the keyhole blouse. So it's this one right here. And what I found is that you still need to cut out the pattern pieces for the bow tie blouse, which is this one, and then do the variation steps. So I've cut those pattern pieces out, I've traced them off, and what I used was, if you ever cut out a regular standard pattern and you have all those bits of tissue paper left over, sometimes you have really big pieces. So I had a few of those recently and I've just folded those up and put them in a drawer. So I'm using those, and what I use sometimes when I don't have pieces of tracing paper or tissue paper left over is I use baking paper. So you could use that and you just tape it together. It doesn't tape together very well, but long enough for you to make the pattern anyway. So that's what I'm using today. So it does mean I've got a few lines from other things going through it, but I can ignore that, that's fine. So what I've done is I've traced it off, and what you have to do, I don't think you can see very clearly here, so I'll show you my little diagram that I've got behind me. Oop. So you've got your standard piece, which has got your markings on it for your dart here. So what you do is you cut out the dart on your traced piece and you draw lines going down from the shoulder like this. You then open that up, so you cut into the lines and you spread open the shoulder, and that brings together this closed dart piece at the side. So on the front for this blouse you won't be sewing that dart, you'll be snipping into it, then bringing the lines down, so you have to slash the shoulder here. So draw yourself some lines going down. I'll show you on my pattern piece on the desk what I've done. And then as that sort of opens up and makes this part of your shoulder sort of come down here to allow for the gathering, for the shearing, that dart area closes up. So I'll show you that on the table. So that can be a little tricky, I would imagine, for some people if you've not done things like this before, but once you play around with your bits of paper you'll see it becomes apparent. So that's the first thing that we're doing. The back of the blouse you're making just the same. You also have to bear in mind that the neck that you cut out is 1.5 lower than it would be, so 1.5 centimetres lower than it would be on the bow tie blouse. So take it down by that amount. And you're also going to have to cut yourself the keyhole shape. Now you can use a curve for this, French curve, or you can just use anything. Now I've just drawn mine freehand because that's what I usually do when I'm changing a neckline. So just have a play around with that also on a piece of paper before you add it. So, and then your keyhole neckline there, look, is going to be cut out at that point. So lower your necklines by 1.5 front and back. We're going to spread out that shoulder, bring that dart together and cut out that keyhole neckline. So I'll show you that now because it's quite hard to describe using words. So look, here's my piece traced off. So this is what I was explaining about the lines on the old pattern tracing paper. Don't worry about that, just ignore that line there. So here I've traced it off as it was for the bow tie blouse, look. And that's what it's like closed up. And then I've drawn myself 5 lines going towards this dart. But you're not going to cut all the way down to it, otherwise they'll just fall out, the pieces will just fall out. So come part the way down to here with your scissors. So I've snipped down here, here, here. I didn't even cut that one, look, I've left that one closed. And then you cut out the dart area here. Now watch what happens. If you close this up, this starts to spread open. So even that up. Now when you cut out your fabric, you're going to cut it out like this. So what you want to do is take that now, this dart that you've closed, tape it, and maybe put some tape across here as well to stop it moving around. And you're going to cut it out so you've got extra in the shoulder there, look. And that's going to allow for when you do your gathering stitches, your shearing stitches, you're going to gather it up a little bit. So if you want it quite gathered, you could do that even more actually. You could bring that down even further. You could even bring this shoulder out a little further if you wanted it fuller. So that's that part. And then here, look, I've lowered it a little bit at the neckline, and then I've drawn on here where my keyhole is going to be, so I'm going to cut that out as well. And then this part here is going to the fold of the fabric. Now, other than lowering the neckline a little bit on the back, you're going to be making the back exactly the same as you would for the bow tie blouse. So you're going to be facing down both sides of it, because you're cutting 2 pieces for the back. You're going to be making your buttonholes and also adding buttons. So I'll show you those steps when I do them. Now, I showed you last time, this is the first time seeing my channel, you won't have seen this. This is the fabric that I'm going to be using now. I did say last time, I think I said it was viscose. It's rayon, it's 100% rayon. I found my little information card that came with it when I bought this. I bought this from John Lewis before it closed down in Sheffield. I've had it quite a while, and it is only 1 metre. Now, it does say in the book you need more than 1 metre for this blouse, but I've had a look and there is enough. And I suppose it will depend on your sizing how much you'll actually need. So this is what I want to use, but I've had it such a long time and not cut into it yet, which is not like me, that I don't want to just dive straight in with an untested pattern. It does look big enough, but before I just go ahead and cut it, I'm going to have a little play around on a piece of scrap just to make sure that this is true to size. So I'm going to do that. You might want to do the same if you've got some beautiful fabric that you don't want to experiment on with a new pattern. So that's what I'm going to do. So there is basically just 2 pieces for the back, a piece for the front. You're going to bind using bias strips, which you're going to cut out of the same fabric around the neckline and around the keyhole. And then you're just going to be adding your buttons and buttonholes, doing your shearing on the shoulders and hemming the sleeves. There's not a lot of pieces to it. So I've just been out today and I've just come back and I thought I'd just get started. I cut the pieces out before I left earlier, and I thought I'd just get started on doing a little bit of filming for this now. So it's almost tea time, I probably won't get it all done today. So I will do it all in one video, but maybe a wardrobe change when I come back. So let's get cracking on that, and I'm going to have a little play around on that scrap fabric now. So this is purely just for a size check and fit. Now this is old duvet fabric. I've used this before to make a tilly make, and it turned out really well, and I'm going to be wearing that one. But this one is purely for a test run. There's tape on there now, look, so you can see it's stuck. So this is where I've taped it, where I've opened up. You can see the shoulder, a bit clearer now. And that's where I've taped the dart just there. So you've got that extra fabric in the shoulder there, ready for your shearing. And I've marked on the back darts on the back piece and the buttonhole markings. Now I've pinned my pieces onto my mannequin just for a little check. So I know that that fits my mannequin, so I know it's going to fit me. So you might want to do this on yourself. This keyhole is going to come together a bit closer than that because obviously it's hanging loose because there's no binding there, so it's going to only have a small amount of binding there. I've decided that I might like to make this a little bit deeper, so I'm going to recut this a little deeper down here so the keyhole is a little bigger. But other than that, that looks like it's going to fit okay, so I don't need to worry about getting it on and off. And at the back I've turned in where the buttons will go, look. Buttons and buttonholes, and it's also going to have the small darts at the back as well. So I'm glad I tested this bit on this mock piece because I put this binding in once and I'd done it a little thicker and it really was too much. So I've done it again, I've taken it off, done it again and done it nice and narrow, and that will look much better now. Look at that when pressed. So do it on a mock-up like this or try it on a piece of scrap just to get the hang of it and see what you like. So I'm glad I practiced on that old duvet set and had a little mock-up of this top because it's showed me a couple of things which I may have been disappointed with if I just did it straight off. So one of them was be careful how you cut your keyhole here, because if you pull it in too much when you're adding the neckline, it does significantly pull off the alignment of your shoulder here. So make sure that you allow for the seam and think about how much is going to be turned under when you're cutting that keyhole. So just practice, try it on, have a little look. Does it need to be a little bit more open? Does it need to come in further? Just play around with it and try it. That's what I've done on my mannequin. And now that I've done that, I've cut my pieces out of my good fabric. So they're all cut and ready to go. I've had a look and it does say in the book to do 5 rows of shearing stitches. Now you could do less if you wanted to, but I'm going to go with the 5, and you do them 2.5 centimetres away from the seam line of the shoulder. So that's down onto the front. So 2.5 down from the seam and then 5 rows. Now you can mark these with tailor's chalk if you're uncertain about just doing it by eye. So that's entirely up to you. And you will need to make your bias strips, so you need to cut these on the cross grain of the fabric and then press them. So press them in both sides and then press it as a fold, so you've got that ready to go. So I've got that one and I've got some spare as well that I've made, so that's all ready to do that. So I've cut my keyhole, I'm happy with it, I've tried out the size. I'm now going to do my shearing stitching on the front and then add my darts to the back panel. I'll show you how I do the darts in a minute. Let's do the shearing first of all. Now your next row, you're going to do it 6mm away. As I said, you can draw this on if you're not sure. Now you can pull these shearing stitches now. What you want to do is line it up with your back pieces. So you've got your 2 back pieces, and bear in mind that this piece is going to fold in here. So line that up, maybe put a pin in before you pull it. Now you look, your front piece is longer, but it's only that much. So you're not pulling those shearing stitches in a great deal, just enough so that it lines up with your back shoulder. So do that now. When you've pulled those shearing stitches and made sure they're even, sew your shoulder seam. Now it's 1.5 seam on this pattern. You are going to have a little bit of fullness on this front bit where your shearing is, so just ease that in as you go. Now you're going to bind around your keyhole of your neckline first of all. I'm making my dart now, so I'm going from this centre point here down to a point where your marking is at the bottom. So just come off and tie a knot in that. And then go from that centre point again up to your top marking. And then you can press those down flat. Now I'm going to finish binding around my neckline with the rest of my binding. Now you can hand stitch down that binding on the inside. So here is where you've stitched it to the neckline. So that goes up into the binding, look where it's got the fold here. And then you're just catching it on the inside so that it's invisible on the outside. Look, your stitching can't be seen. Now sew your side seams. I've overlocked mine first, you might want to zigzag them. So I'm going to make my buttonholes now. So I've had a look through my buttons. I've not bought any especially for this, but I've noticed I've got these colours in these big ones because I've got some of these selections here that I got from the Works here in the UK, and I've got a couple of those. I didn't get the jar, my friend bought me the jar, but they just come in like a bag of selected different coloured buttons. And I've also got this one, so they come in a pot like this that's got black, white and beige in, and then this has got sort of pastel colours in. So I thought because we've got pink, black and white in here, I'm going to do them alternating like that because I thought that might be quite nice to have different ones down the back. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm going to make my buttonholes now. So the buttonholes go this way. If you're using plain fabric, you might want to do the bound buttonholes like she suggests in the book. So my buttons are on, so now I've just got to hem the sleeves and the bottom. So what I'm going to do for the hem is I'm just going to turn it under twice. So a double fold, so this much and then this much again, and just hem it. So here it is finished. Here's the shearing. I like the shape. I'll take a few daylight photos as well so you can get a better idea, because it is dark again now. It's winter as I'm filming this, so doing things through the day and then get to do a bit and then it's dark again before you know it. So I hope you've enjoyed sewing along with me today. Please let me know in the comments below what you've made from the Gertie book, if you've made this blouse, and what your favourite patterns were. I always love to see your comments and read them and find out how you're getting on also. So I will be back soon with another make from the Gertie book. I've also got somebody dropping off some fabric because she's cleared out our mum's house and there were lots of metres of fabric and she wanted it to go to a good home. So I'm going to be taking collection of that in a little while and sorting through that. So I may do a video on that, and any that I don't use I will be gifting to my sewing friends. So I have a friend that sews, and any other fabric where I think might go to a good home, I will sort that. So I may do a video on that also. If you like this, please like and subscribe. I will be back soon. Thank you so much for watching today, and bye for now.